44% of projected long-run volume on prediction markets is sports, nearly half. And the people who call this gambling have a point. The mechanics are the same. You pick an outcome, put money on it, wait for resolution. Strip the branding and a Polymarket contract is structurally indistinguishable from a DraftKings line. So before any defense of prediction markets, the strongest version of the case against them deserves a real hearing. 5 arguments, each one stronger than the prediction market industry wants to admit. The first is the simplest. Prediction markets are gambling with better branding. The user interface looks like a sports book. The dopamine loop is identical. You check your position, watch the price move, refresh. The counter-argument goes, gambling produces entertainment, prediction markets produce probability signals. But that distinction only holds if the signal is what people are actually buying. The data says otherwise. Look at what gets volume. Elections, celebrity drama. Will this person go to jail? Will this couple break up? Sports. The categories that draw the most money are the categories with the most emotional charge. Polymarket could list contracts on crop yields in Nebraska, on semiconductor supply chain disruptions, on the probability of a port strike in Long Beach. Those markets exist. They're thin, a few $1,000s in volume, while election markets move tens of millions in a single day. The users want entertainment first and information second. The market structure might produce signals. The demand is for action. The second argument cuts deeper. The real product is the dopamine hit. The price signal is the byproduct. Election night on Polymarket felt like the Super Bowl. Millions of dollars swinging on each state call. Users watching a probability tick from 60 to 95 in real time. Crypto Twitter was glued to it. Reddit was glued to it. The experience is visceral, thrilling, closer to a casino floor than a Bloomberg terminal. And the platforms know it. Polymarket's most marketed moment was election night, when DraftKings paid $250 million to acquire Railbird and launched DraftKings predictions across 38 states. That was a sports betting company declaring that prediction markets are a natural extension of its product. The gambling label earns weight from that decision alone. Third objection, regulatory arbitrage. Prediction markets exist in a gap between gambling law and financial regulation. The CFTC oversees them because they're structured as event contracts. State gambling commissions want jurisdiction because they look like bets. Kalshi spent years in that ambiguity, filing 50-plus lawsuits to protect its regulatory position on sports contracts. That level of legal investment is the behavior of a company whose business model depends on staying on the right side of a blurry line. The criticism is fair. It's also the history of financial innovation. ETFs started in a regulatory gap. Credit default swaps grew before anyone figured out how to regulate them. Crypto operated for a decade before the SEC decided which tokens were securities. The gap is an origin story, a starting condition. The question is whether the product survives when it closes. Fourth objection, insider trading. Stock markets have dealt with this since the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. 90 years of enforcement infrastructure, dedicated surveillance teams, whistleblower programs, decades of case law. Prediction markets at scale are 2 years old. The CFTC has 1/8 the staff of the SEC. A former CFTC attorney put it plainly, if there were a significant amount of insider trading happening, it would be very hard to effectively police. And the insider trading problem has a darker sibling. One account, 1 week old, $32,000 placed at 5.5-cent odds on a geopolitical outcome that resolved days later into $436,000 in profit. The pattern repeated weeks later with Iran airstrikes. Fresh accounts, precise timing, over $1 million collected. 5 congressional bills followed. The DOJ and CFTC opened a joint inquiry. The prediction market priced the outcome correctly, and someone with advanced knowledge of a military operation profited from it. That story deserves its own video. It's coming. Fifth objection, perverse incentives. When you can bet on whether a world leader gets removed from power, the incentive structure gets uncomfortable. Senator Schiff pushed to ban prediction market bets tied to war and death. Representative Torres called the Maduro trade corrupting to the market and corrupting to the government itself. 3 of the 5 congressional bills specifically targeted bets tied to violence and death. The Death Bets Act, the Prediction Market Security and Integrity Act, the Bets Off Act. Casinos carry no equivalent problem. The worst outcome of a sports bet is losing money. The worst outcome of a geopolitical prediction market could be someone with money on the line and influence over the outcome. Taken together, those 5 arguments paint a picture of an industry that walks like gambling, talks like gambling, and occasionally produces outcomes worse than gambling because the stakes involve geopolitics instead of point spreads. Here's where it turns. The Netherlands banned Polymarket in January 2026. 420,000 euros in weekly fines. Belgium, France, Portugal, Romania, and Hungary restricted access. 12+ U.S. states challenged prediction market operators. Massachusetts secured a preliminary injunction against Kalshi, rejecting the federal preemption argument. In the same window of time, the CFTC withdrew its proposed ban on sports event contracts and announced a framework for responsible development. And the Federal Reserve published a research paper on Kalshi's track record. The finding: a perfect forecast record on interest rate decisions. Kalshi matched Bloomberg consensus on core inflation and unemployment. It beat Bloomberg on headline inflation. 2 institutions looked at the same product and reached opposite conclusions. The Netherlands saw an illegal gambling operation and imposed fines. The Federal Reserve saw the most accurate macroeconomic forecasting instrument it had ever studied and published its findings for policymakers. Both conclusions are based on evidence. Both are defensible. The split is the story. And the split is widening, with some jurisdictions banning and others building regulatory frameworks to bring prediction markets deeper into the financial system. This is the pattern with financial instruments that start in the gray. Options trading was once considered gambling. Futures contracts were banned in several states in the 19th century. Onion futures were banned by Congress in 1958 because traders manipulated the market. And the word bucket shop was the 1890s version of prediction market, a place where ordinary people could bet on stock price movements without owning the underlying asset. Sound familiar? The difference between a financial product and a bet is institutional legitimacy. And institutional legitimacy is a lagging indicator. It follows adoption, accuracy, and utility. It does not lead. When the Trends.vc report started covering prediction markets, the subscriber question was, is this real? Within less than a year, the question shifted to, how do I use the data? When a central bank treats prediction market data as a valid signal, the gambling label starts to feel like a category error. The structural mechanism that separates prediction markets from pure gambling is financial consequence for being wrong. A poll has 0 cost for an inaccurate answer. A pundit pays 0 cost for a bad prediction. Cable news analysts called the 2024 election a coin flip. Polymarket had Trump at 58% the Monday before the vote and was calling the race at 95% before midnight, hours before major networks. The difference was skin in the game. Any forecasting system without a financial penalty for inaccuracy gets captured by groupthink, career incentives, or ideology. Super forecasters in the Good Judgment Project outperformed intelligence analysts because the tournament created a scoring mechanism that functioned like financial risk. The Iowa electronic markets beat 74% of polls across 5 election cycles from 1988 to 2004. The accuracy advantage has a multi-decade track record. The consequence is the mechanism. Strip it away and you have a survey with extra steps. So where does the gambling framing go? It fades when institutions cite the data. The Fed already has. ICE, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, invested $2 billion in Polymarket and launched a data product called Polymarket Signals and Sentiment in February 2026. A $75 billion market cap company treating prediction market odds as institutional-grade signal, mapping prediction prices to specific securities in near real-time feeds. NASDAQ filed to launch binary outcome contracts on the NASDAQ 100 index in March 2026. CME hit 100 million event contracts in 8 weeks and partnered with FanDuel for consumer-facing sports contracts. CBOE is launching mini SPX prediction market contracts. Coinbase is integrating Kalshi contracts through its acquisition of the clearing company. Interactive Brokers launched Forecast Trader. Robinhood surpassed 11 billion event contracts. The institutions are placing their own bets, and they're placing them on prediction markets being financial products. The gambling critics have real evidence: 44% sports volume, dopamine-driven user behavior, wash trading that hit 60% of Polymarket volume during incentive periods, according to a Certic security report. A French trader who moved election odds with concentrated bets. Insider trading with geopolitical consequences. Regulatory gaps that invite abuse. Those problems are genuine and structural. Polymarket partnered with Palantir in March 2026 to build trade monitoring and anomaly detection. The integrity problem is being addressed. Whether it's being addressed fast enough is the open question. The accuracy signal is also real. The institutional adoption is also real. And the history of financial innovation suggests that products with genuine utility survive their origin stories. If the most accurate forecasting tool in history looks identical to a casino, does that say more about the tool or about how we define casinos?